I'm going to step out of the frame just so our photographer Jordan can give you a better look at what is behind me. Now, again, that debris is on that power line. There's a huge tree behind the Georgia Power truck. And now, even in the parking lot that we are in, there are huge pieces of the roof here that have came off from the buildings around us, scattered all over the parking lot. So the damage here looks to be pretty extensive.
Good morning, Blake. After beginning deliberations late in the day on Thursday and then deliberating for the entirety of the day on Friday, the jury told Judge Catherine Lumsden they're deadlocked on 6 of the 9 counts Jones is indicted on.
Phil, this announcement means that the South Commons parking lot I'm currently standing in will be transformed into a drive-through site that will vaccinate more than 1,000 people daily.
Phil, Teresa Jones says one of his campaign goals is to hold police officers accountable, and appointing a special prosecutor to help him take this case in front of a grand jury is part of that plan.
That's right, Phil and Teresa. Just moments ago, Cuthbert police cleared the crime scene tape that was surrounding this house on Hood Street.
Crystal, a motion filed late Tuesday night. The Georgia Attorney General's office is alleging Jones inquired about purchasing and obtaining cocaine from a contact who gave him a ride home after a late night in July of 2021.
Teresa, the city of Hamilton says if everyone had paid their speeding tickets, they would have more than $35,000 in revenue.
Good morning. Suni Lee is headed to Auburn with a box set of Olympic medals, but head coach Jeff Graba shares medals isn't the only thing she'll be bringing to her new home.
Teresa and Phil, I'm in downtown Plains where just hours ago, crowds stood on the streets behind me, waving and cheering as President Biden's motorcade passed by.
Phil, Teresa, after 2.5 years, it was announced yesterday that the alleged killer of an 18-year-old Destiny Virgin would be accepting a plea deal instead of going to trial. But now the victim's mother is speaking out against the plea agreement.
That's right, Phil, and the question still remains, will Chris Brialt remain Mark Jones' defense attorney in this case? That decision won't come down from Judge Lumsden until tomorrow.
Blake and Crystal, some misdemeanor offenders like those who shoplifted or were caught driving without a license will no longer be held at the Muskogee County Jail, but the new policies have no impact on their sentencing for these low-level crimes. How does that work, you're asking? Well, let's break it down. Good morning, Blake. Before noon on Monday, Jones entered a guilty plea to 4 of the 9 counts he was indicted on.
That's right, Crystal and Blake. I am on Auburn University's campus where in just a few hours, students will begin heading to their first day of classes for the 2021-2022 school year. Kendall Nipper is a mother of a little girl and was just weeks away from welcoming a brand new baby boy into her family when she tested positive for COVID-19. Unvaccinated Nipper says she wasn't against the vaccine, she simply didn't know enough about it to feel comfortable getting it while pregnant.
The vaccine was so new, we decided to wait until after I had our son to get it. We didn't really know much about it. But we just figured that we would just wait until after he was born.
After a few days of suffering mild symptoms and low-grade fevers, Nipper and her husband felt better. But that's when she says she knew something was wrong.
Just felt deep that something was wrong, so I went up to Piedmont and went straight to labor and delivery, and that's where we found out that unfortunately our baby boy was no longer with us.
At 36 weeks, Nipper suffered a stillbirth that further testing showed was related to complications from COVID-19. An occurrence that OBGYN for Piedmont Columbus Regional Dr. Timothy Villegas says is on the rise in unvaccinated expecting mothers right here in our community.
We are finding that the placentas have been infected with COVID, and the virus is destroying the placental tissue and causing inflammation, which is what's causing these stillbirths.
Dr. Villegas says there have been 3 COVID-19 caused stillbirths in the last month in Columbus alone. He's urging patients to talk to their physicians about the protection a vaccine could provide the mother and their unborn child.
We have all of the organizations that have looked at this vaccination data in pregnancy feel that vaccination is not only safe in pregnancy, but effective as well.
Something Nipper says she wishes she could do to save her baby that she was ready to welcome into the world with a name and all.
His name was going to be Jack, after my grandpa. And the sad part about that is we actually lost my grandfather to COVID in February. So Jack was going to pay tribute to his grandfather.
Nipper says she is counting down the days until she can be vaccinated to avoid suffering another loss like this ever again.
Dr. Villegas says when talking about the vaccine, he tells his patients you have to weigh risk versus benefits, and data and personal experiences like Nippers show the benefits from the COVID-19 vaccine greatly outweigh the risks. Back to you guys.
Sacra Ellerslie resident Roy Conine went to sit down after starting his dinner on the stovetop Saturday night. This is when he says he dozed off by accident. What happened next could have cost him his life, a kitchen fire.
Faith Nobles was driving around her neighborhood and noticed smoke billowing out of this house. The house belongs to Roy Conine, who was asleep inside while smoke was building from a kitchen fire. Nobles says she remembered seeing Conine and his dog in the yard earlier that day, and she knew something wasn't right, so she made the decision to call emergency services. A quick decision that Ellerslie Fire Chief Skip Wyatt says saved Conine's life.
Her just being out and about, because that time of day, when I got down there, just me and her were on the street. There wasn't another soul in sight. If she would not have seen that, it'd been just, that'd been it.
Chief Wyatt says once he arrived on the scene, he began pounding on the door trying to get in. This is when he saw Conine's hand meet his own on the glass before it dropped to the ground.
And what happened is my hand, I met your hand right there, and I seen your hand go like this, and I heard that.
After another volunteer fireman showed up, Chief Wyatt says they were able to get in and drag unconscious Conine to safety just minutes before it was too late. Chief Wyatt, Nobles, and Conine all calling the timing of Nobles' call an act of God.
I think that the first responders did an amazing job, but yeah, I mean, I can only say thank you to God for putting me there at the time and giving me the knowledge to call the emergency services.
After rescuing Conine, the firemen were able to contain the fire to just Conine's kitchen and rescue his dog, who ran to hide in the master bedroom.
Sacra, Conine, and Nobles met for the first time today, sharing a moment of gratitude for the twist of fate that saved Conine's life.
The GHSA cheerleading season usually begins in August and ends in November, but due to COVID-19, these athletes have been training for nearly 3 extra months. Despite the extended schedule causing exhaustion, head coach of Columbus High School cheerleading team Christina Pelletier says she's incredibly proud of her team for all they've accomplished this year.
It's been a long year, but it's been a rewarding year as well to see them overcome the challenges from COVID and the changes. It has really been a good year.
The Quad A division team faced challenges like having various athletes in quarantine at different times, forcing them to constantly change and rework their routine.
Sometimes it was hard to hold full team practices, so working we'd have to work individual skills, so we didn't get as much group time as we might have wanted, but in the end we all came together and made it work, so that's what matters the most.
Even though the team had a few mistakes in their state championship routine, assistant coach Elise Higgins says it's a moment that they should still cherish and be proud they were able to experience at all.
There's some teams that qualified for state and couldn't come compete because of COVID reasons. So I think we're just lucky that we were able to make it here. We were able to stay safe and healthy this whole season.
After months of uncharted territory, the Columbus High School cheerleading team placed 7th out of 16 teams at the state championship.
Besides challenges presented by the pandemic, coaches said these athletes had to overcome blood, sweat, and tears at practices in order to leave it all on the mat here at GHSA State Championship. Reporting in Macon, Carissa D'Agostino, WRBL News 3, on your side.